107 years ago today, the Canadian Expeditionary Force took Vimy Ridge. Let me tell you how they did it. April 9th, 1917 is the beginning of the Arras Offensive, which is an overarching attempt by the British to divert manpower and resources from the German efforts against the French. The British cannot do this until they take Vimy Ridge, which, as the name implies, is a ridge that overlooks the Douai Plain east. And east is Lens, and if the British take Vimy, then they're able to bombard the Germans at Lens. For reference, here are a few soldiers overlooking the Douai Plain after the Battle of Vimy Ridge. It's an artilleryman's dream, seriously. About a month or so before the Arras offensive would begin, the Canadian Corps was selected to take Vimy Ridge. Arthur Currie went to General Julian Byng and proposed his plan, and Julian Byng liked it, so he agreed and said the Canadian Corps would take Vimy Ridge April 9th, 1917. So I've read a lot about the Battle of Vimy Ridge, and there's a lot of things that a lot of sources agree upon, and that comes down to timing and planning and artillery. And that's pretty consistent overall. Let me actually show you a couple sources I used to make this video. Arthur Currie needed to ensure that every single man, from corporal to general, knew exactly what they were doing at all times, at all moments of the operation. The plan relied extensively on artillery, both in terms of suppression, which is just throwing as much lead as you possibly could downrange, as well as rolling barrages. Rolling barrages are essentially rolling periods of time when the barrages of the artillery would go a certain distance with the infantry advancing behind them. Why they wanted to do that was because if any Germans popped up in order to offer resistance and shoot back at the Canadians advancing, well, guess what? You're going to get exploded by artillery. The men trained for over a month in order to make sure that they all succeeded. That meant that everybody had to know exactly when they were going to attack. They had to know exactly when their artillery was going to fall. They had to know exactly when the counterattack was expected to happen. And they all had to rely on the man next to them as well as the battalion next to them. The amount of planning that went into this is nothing less than extraordinary. Part of this planning included extensive tunnels, which almost went right up into the German lines themselves. The idea behind that is when their artillery came along, the infantry could come up and then surprise the Germans. 1 week before the Battle of Vimy Ridge began, the Canadian Expeditionary Force took all supporting artillery pieces they had and they just pounded the living heck out of Vimy Ridge. I'm talking over 1,000 pieces of heavy artillery going boom, 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 day in, day out. Suppressed to all hell for about a week before the offensive actually occurred. Finally, at 5:30 in the morning on April 9, 1917, 20,000 soldiers burst through the floodgates as part of the first wave, smashed through the initial German line, and then took their objectives within hours. By April 10th, they took all objectives, save for the pimple outside of Givenchy, but by April 12th, they took this as well. The battle was the bloodiest in Canadian military history with 10,600 casualties, but it is also the pinnacle of Canadian military achievement. In the face of overwhelming firepower, the Canadians punched well above their weight in order to deliver a black eye to the German Imperial Reich. In the words of Canadians everywhere, we stand on guard for thee.